Morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you're all doing well. So today, I'm going to continue on with the milestone types of workouts, right? I'm going to talk about things that help us in cross country and track. Today, what's the focus? Sub 430-mile workouts that will also help boost your PBs in the 3K, 2 mile, and the 5K, even 800. Okay. How do they do that? Well, training at multiple paces. Right, it makes you not only more versatile, but it makes you strong enough to step up in distance if you need to, and fast enough to step down in distance if you need to. A lot of people who run the mile also run the 3K, sometimes a 5K, also run the 4x8, 1200 leg in a DMR, and so on and so forth. So being able to move up and down distance is really, 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 really helpful. And as a coach, especially, we look for versatility. And one of the things that college coaches look for is versatility in athletes. When we're recruiting athletes, we look at, can this athlete step up and be good? Can this athlete step down and be good, right? And it's a very important quality to have. And it's all, a lot of it really, goes right into how you're training. Okay. This is why I give multiple paces. This is why it's so important to have a balanced training portfolio. Okay. And we'll continue to elaborate on it. Again, if you're a runner or a coach, it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Again, if you enjoy this content enough to come back, please consider hitting that like button and the subscribe button. If you do subscribe, just turn on your notifications. That way you'll know when I go live every Sunday, and I do, you'll know exactly ahead of time what we're going to be talking about. Next Sunday, we're going to talk about sub 15-minute 5K workouts. That's going to be the next template, next milestone. Okay, we talked about sub 5 minute already mile, sub 10-minute 2 mile last week. Today's 4:30. Sub 15. I've gotten a lot of other requests as well. We've done sub 2-minute 800 as well. So you can go back and take a look at them. And again, it's always really, and the more information you have, the better you're going to be as a coach and an athlete. And if you have questions along the way, put them right in the comments and I'll answer them live time. Okay. And again, if you one of the reasons I talk about training multiple systems at multiple paces is, if you saw yesterday what happened at Boston University, the first opener of indoor track season, there were Jane Hennegren from BYU, the freshman phenom, broke the NCAA record in the 5K already, right? 14:44. You have men almost breaking 13 minutes on the 5K right out of the gate. Okay. They're parlaying their strength from cross country into getting a fast early season qualifier. Now they can rest, rebuild, and get ready for a long track season. This is why it's so important to train to multiple paces. You can develop your speed while you're getting stronger, right? And we have a question along the way. Multi-K, there he is, sub 445. You've seen many athletes being a hard barrier. Looking to see how these workouts will help them get there. Well, take your time and just keep in mind, I would encourage you to look at sub 5 minutes, and then look at this one. You'll see the difference in paces between what? The milestones. And again, sub 445, that's 70 to 71 per lap, right? So 470, 69, 70, 500s at that same pace, right? 600s, if you can do 4 to 5 times the 600 with a 2-minute recovery at 144, 145. That's all sub 444 pace. And these are the types of things. And again, if you can do 800s at sub 10-minute per mile, sub 10-minute 2 mile pace, which the 445 would also help you looking at those sub 10-minute 2 mile workouts as well, because they're kind of in line with each other. But this is a good question. Again, if you have questions along the way, Multi-Kenny, don't hesitate to ask, brother. All right, let's get right into this. Okay. Again, the workouts are going to help improve your versatility as a runner and an athlete. Being competitive and stepping up, like I said, in distance, and stepping down in distance. Be strong enough to double race at track meets, because a lot of cases, and again, I'm not saying early in the season you need to run multiple races, because you don't. But later on, as you get fitter, as a championship season comes, you're going to be expected most likely to come back here and then come back later in a 4x8 or something like that. And you need to be strong enough and fit enough to be able to do both well, right? And what you do throughout the entire season is going to put you in a position to do that, right? That's why I talk about multiple paces along the way. And again, as always, a good warm-up, drills and strides, okay? And this is also why I talk about speed development all year. The basic speed development in the summer, and you transition into spring, into cross-country, it maintains along the way. It makes it easier to absorb hard workouts. It makes it easier to recover from hard workouts, right? Same thing translates here to track. Okay, that basic stuff. I mean, 50 meters on the uphill, once a week, or 50 meters on the flats after a tempo once a week, or something like that. Okay, deploying the speed when you need to deploy it. And as a distance run, a middle distance run, you need to deploy it at the end of a race, not at the beginning of a race. Okay, so strategically building into the training is really, really important. Okay, now, but here, let's get right into the workouts. Okay, workout 1, 5 times a K with a 2-minute recovery at 3:02 to 3:03. Okay, this is 5K pace, commensurate with a sub 4:30 mile. Okay, so with a 4:30 mile, you should be about 15:20 or so, or a little bit under that for 5K. Okay, workout 2, 6 to 7 times a 600 with a 2-minute recovery at 145 to 146. That's 3K pace. Okay, so at 4:30 per mile, you should be in the 9:30s for 2 mile. Right? That's commensurate again with a sub 4:30 mile. And I'm not talking about 4:29.9. I generally talk about 4:25, 4:26. Give you a little bit of cushion, a little bit of margin of error. So that if you have an off day, you're still getting under 4:30. I build that into the training as well. But you make modifications, you adjust as you see fit. And these volumes here, you're building towards them. Just because you can't come in, you might not be able to do 5 times a K at that pace right now. That's okay. If you can do 3, okay. A couple weeks later, you continue to build, and maybe you try to do 4. Okay, so these are essentially end of season or mid to late season volumes that you want to be achieving. Okay, which is also going to translate to spring track as well. Then you have your tempo run, 20 to 25-minute tempo. You're building towards that as well. 5:29 to 5:30 per mile is the goal pace you want to be looking to run for the tempo. That's also going to put you in a position, if you could do that, that's what's going to help you drop a mile in your 5K, right? 30 seconds in a 2-mile 3K. A lot of folks tell me, and I get this a lot, okay, is my mile is 4:55, but my 5K is mid-18s. And I ask them, do you do tempo runs? No. Well, this is one of the weapons in your training that you can incorporate that will help you drop good amount of time in a 5K and a 2 mile and a 3K. Okay. Workout 4. 2 sets of broken mile. 800, 400, 200, 200. Okay. If you got it, break it up, it's a mile. And again, if you can do 1.5 to 2 miles worth of work at your goal mile pace, that's a good workout. You can build towards that as well. The 800 is here, and you take a 200-meter jog after each rep and 5 minutes in between the sets. So after the last 200, you take 5 minutes, you try to repeat the second set. So the 800 is going to be in 213 to 214. The 400 and 61.62. That's in between mile pace and 800-meter pace. And then the 200 to 29.30, about 800-meter pace. Okay, so it gets progressively faster throughout the way. And you take your recovery and then you try to repeat that again. But if you can do 2 sets of that, that's good. You can, if you can even do 3 times an 800, 213 and 214 as a separate workout, that's a good workout too. Start with 230 recovery and try to work your way down to 2-minute recovery. That's another workout that's not on here that you can incorporate. Okay, and then lastly, you have a threshold workout here. 5 times 1,200 meters with a 1-minute recovery threshold at 3:58 to 4 minutes, just under 5:20 per mile. If you look at the difference between threshold reps and tempo runs, it's about 10 seconds differential per mile. So 5:30 per mile and a tempo, it equals about 5:20 per mile in the threshold reps. So again, if you're doing 800 of threshold reps, you're looking at running similar, right? 238 to 240. Looking at run Ks, 318 to 320. 1200s, 3:58 to 4 minutes. You're building towards that. You're adding volume at the goal pace. And again, you can progress from 800s to 1Ks to 1200s. That's fine. It's up to you to decide what's most appropriate. And you might find some athletes who need a tempo run, some athletes who need threshold reps. It really is. This is where coaching with the eyes comes into play. Okay, it gives you an idea of who needs what. This is why training groups are so important too. That way you can separate your athletes and say, okay, these folks are training for this here. These folks are training for this. Your 430 athletes are not the same thing as your 450 athletes. Okay, the recovery is going to be different if they're doing the same workouts. Meaning what? Well, in order for the 450 athletes to recover the same way as your 430, they need to be separated into training groups because they run fast. The people who run faster reps are going to have a different recovery period than the people who run slower reps. So it's important to have the appropriate rest periods for everybody. Right? This is where training groups are so important. Okay, that's one side of workouts. Now I'm going to give you some combo workouts. And again, along the way, if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. I'm always up to answer questions. And again, actually, let me put this in the comments right now, just so you have it. Okay. Oh, we got a question. How much volume of workouts should kids be, high school kids? And these are the volumes I'd be building up towards, Ratanko. So no more than 2 miles worth of volume at mile pace, no more than 3 miles worth of volume at 2 mile pace, right? No more than 3 to 4 miles worth of volume at 5K pace, but gradually over time. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to run that volume every single time, but that's the a volume that you build towards. And again, you build that into the mileage that you're doing, right? So the volume of workouts, that's kind of relative to the athletes that you train for. You might have middle distance runners who might need a little bit less volume, some may need a little bit more, and vice versa. So this is where taking notes is really, really important, right? This is where, right, take a pad and pen. This is why I always take notes when I'm coaching. You can see, okay, these workouts here, did they recover well from these workouts? And then you can go back and look and say, okay, this is when my athletes ran their best races. This is the workouts, the training that they did during that cycle. So you can see what works, what didn't work. And you can tweak as you see fit, right? But that's essentially, if you wanted to do a number, those are the type of numbers that I follow, right, Tanko? Type of volumes to the workouts. And again, you build towards those volumes. They don't need to come out the gate right now and do those volumes. And if they can't, that's fine, especially if they're not used to it. But you're building towards these volumes over time, which is going to put them in a position to run well, run fast, and do it in a sustainable way, right? So take my energy drink here. Chaco, go. So this is, again, and you're doing this in a consistent manner. It means you're training the systems in a consistent way, right? And the more you train all systems on a consistent basis, the better off you're going to be throughout the long season. And if you're building this stuff into the training at the same time and essentially building it around the races, and I keep this in mind too, if you're racing a lot, then it's going to make it harder to recover from the races and these workouts. So picking and choosing races is a good idea if you have the opportunity to do that. Racing more takes away from the training that you need to do sometimes. Just keep that in mind too. A lot of folks, I talk to a lot of folks who race twice per week. It's really hard to fit in your training if you're racing twice per week, right? Even folks who do, well, we're just going to tempo this. Well, then that's up to you to decide. And personally, I would not travel to a track meet and spend all that money to get athletes in to just tempo a race. I don't need to be king of the dual meets. Okay, if I want kids running fast, then I want to set them up for success. And these are the types of workouts that I'm going to set them up to run fast. Now, how about some combo workouts, multiple paces and things? Okay, this is the next step here. So workout 1 here, you do a mile tempo. You rest 5 minutes. Okay, the mile tempo does what? Helps elevate the heart rate to transition into the more intense component of the workout. So after the mile tempo, then the workout's 300, 400, 500, 400, 300 with a 2-minute recovery. The 300s in 47, 48. The 400s in 66, 67. The 500, 122 to 124. The 400 again, 66, 67. 300, 47, 48. Right around mile pace, sub 430 mile pace. Okay. And doing it after a tempo helps. Again, you can do a mile tempo, and here you can do a 2-mile tempo. You build it towards. You can do a mile first, then a mile and a half, then 2-mile tempo. This is a good repeatable workout. And doing that tempo helps put a little bit of fatigue in the legs before the workout starts. And this is what it's going to feel like at the end of the second half of a mile race. You can have a little bit of junk in your legs, right? Your legs are going to be a little tired, and this is when you're going to need to deploy. Okay. Your turnover, your deploy, your focus, right? Maintain good posture. And again, the mile tempo to 2-mile tempo, you're doing it at the same pace as you were doing the tempo runs before, 529 to 530 per mile. Okay, that's workout 1. Workout 2, a 12-minute tempo. Take a 5 to 6 minute recovery, and this is a good workout too. 800, 600, 400, 300. Take a 3-minute recovery. Okay. The 800 is going to be closer to 3K pace here, 220 to 222. Then the 600 drop down the mile pace, 141 to 142. 400 mile pace, 66, 67. 300, at 800-meter pace, 29:30. Okay? If you can get closer to mile pace with the 800 rep, you do that. But at the very worst, you do it at 3K pace. And you go from 3K pace, you progress down to 800-meter pace. This particular workout here, before I go any further, the week before I ran my fastest 5K, I did this workout, 8:6:43 after tempo. I ran 2 minutes, 127, 54, and 39 with the same recovery. And then I ran a pretty fast 5K. And then later on, I ran a mile, 4:07 mile, using these types of workouts. And again, this also allows you to do what? A little bit of tempo, a little bit of VO2 max, a little bit of race specificity. Instead of going over on either one, you can start combining the two of these together. If you do them at the appropriate volumes, then that's when you're setting yourself up for success. We have another question here. More of an 800 or 400 runner, you don't train well during longer reps. Well, remember, okay, VO2 max reps might serve you well. And they don't necessarily need to be 1K or 1200s. You could do your 800, 400. I would be doing speed endurance 200s. We've talked about that a lot. Okay. I would do 800 VO2 max reps. 4 times an 800 VO2 max. Okay. 3-minute recovery. That's a good enough for as an 8-4 runner. You can even do 600s at VO2 max with a 230 recovery. And then you work your way towards 800. If the 800s are the longest reps you can do, that's fine. It's appropriate to the distances that you're training for. Okay? That makes sense, Reed Johnson, John? Good question too, though. These are all good questions. I like this is why I do this, because I want you to have an opportunity to ask questions. There are no bad questions. They really aren't. Now let's get back to the one last combo workout. Okay. 2-mile tempo again. 5-minute recovery, and then you do 6 to 8 times a 45-second uphill. Okay. You jog down nice and easy. Again, uphill running is a good way to develop speed and leg power, but in a way that's more forgiving on the legs than it is running flat and fast on the track or on the road or whatnot. Okay, and again, this is another great way of improving your leg speed. And doing it at the end of a workout after a tempo helps you deploy that leg turnover when you're tired. Okay, so 6 to 8 times 45-second uphill runs after a 2-mile tempo. You can even, if you want to go a little bit further, for pure distance folks, then you can, after the uphill runs, you can do another tempo. Let's just say it's 2 miles again, or 1.5 miles. And then you can do a couple of 150s or 200s on the track on the flat. It's up to you to decide. Tempo uphill, tempo flat. You can mix that up for distance runners as well. But this is another good combination workout. And again, tempo runner gives you a chance to operate at the VO2 max side initially, elevate the heart rate. And again, this is where the long tempo rep transitioning to the shorter, faster stuff is an important thing. And if you go the other way around, if the workout itself is a tempo, right, you can do a couple of 200s in the beginning, 2 to 3 times the 200 at the pace you're looking to run for the tempo. So if you're running that 529 to 530 pace, you're going to try to run these in 40, 41. Helps you find the pace you're looking to run in the tempo before the tempo starts. That way you're not looking for it in the workout. Okay? Put you 2 steps ahead. That's the point of this tempo run as well. Okay? It helps elevate the heart rate. It makes it easier to transition into the stuff, especially when it's outside. If it's cold. Okay? This is where these types of workouts come in handy too. The transition rep in the cold weather is a very valuable weapon to have. Okay, and that's also why I talk about threshold reps, because you can slow things down with a minimal rest, but you're not standing around in the cold weather very long. The most recovery is a minute in the threshold reps. So you're staying active throughout the whole entire workout, and you can go over distance for those. Okay, we got another question here. Your week looks like 4 to 6, 200 Monday, 30 minutes Tuesday. What do you mean 4, 6, 200? What does that mean? 4 to 6 reps? And Thursday, 3 to 4 reps of 300? Is that what that means? 30 hills Friday, long on Saturday? I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, so I can help answer the question. Reps, okay. One reason you're having probably trouble with the longer reps is because you're not doing any. Those aren't long reps. Those are only going to get you so far. This is where a tempo run, like the workouts that I just put out there, I'll do an abbreviated tempo, and then you can start incorporating some stuff at the end, like a 10-minute tempo, or for your case, a mile and a half tempo. Take a 5 to 6 minute recovery, and then you can do some 300s on the back end. Do them after a tempo. Okay. That way you get some more VO2 max development, conditioning. Okay. Then this is a good way to deploy these types of things. That's why I encourage you to consider that. And again, you do that for 8 to 10 weeks. Now you've got what, 20 miles of tempo running in the legs that you didn't have before. 20 miles of VO2 max conditioning that you didn't have before, right? That way, if you are running, let's just say an 800 coming back in a 4x4, or a 400 and coming back in a 4x8, you need to be strong enough and fit enough to come back and do well in both, right? So this is how I would tweak your training, John. Add that tempo rep in the beginning of these types of workouts. You can even do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if you'd like, if you're not racing that week. Just a thought, but I think they'll go a long way. And again, it's not like you're doing a 5-mile tempo. You do a mile tempo, mile and a half tempo. Helps transition into the workout, helps make the workout more effective. And being able to do those when the legs are already a little bit tired is going to put you in a good position to be a little bit stronger in the last 100 of a 400, the last 200 of an 800, where a lot of people tend to fall apart, right? How about slowing down less than everybody else, or maintaining pace or accelerating when everybody else is dying? How do you do that? Fitness, aerobic fitness. In a 400 especially, you need to tap into your aerobic conditioning in the last 100 of the 400 when you start to go lactic, when that gorilla and that grizzly bear jumps on your back, right? This is exactly what the point of these workouts are, right? Building that fortress of fitness, of conditioning, building speed through strength, right? And I'm very, very confident when I say they'll go a long way towards helping you. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, those are the workouts that I want to share with you today. There's logic behind these workouts. I've also used these workouts a lot with a lot of athletes with a lot of success. That's why I'm putting them up here. I would not just put workouts here that I don't use with success. Okay. Obviously, you tweak as you see fit as a coach. Okay. But these are workouts that, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, but just that little transition piece that I know a lot of folks aren't doing will help elevate your workout, help elevate your training, help add that little nugget of conditioning that you weren't adding before, right? And that conditioning throughout a whole entire season, that can be the difference between running 201 and 800 and 158, right? 432 in a mile to 425, and so on. It's the little things like that, improving around the margins, that help you go to the next level, that help you go from the number 7 guy, number 7 girl in cross country to the number 4. Doing these types of things, right? Dropping time where you least expect to. Do a mile for the warm up, then you jump into you see. Imagine that. Imagine, so you train in the road, okay. So with you, I would do that. Yeah, I would do your drills and strides if you don't do it now. And the mile, I'm not sure that is the mile long enough for the warm up. If the mile's long enough, fine. And I would do some drills and strides, and I would try to add a mile tempo after the mile warm up. Just one, and then do the workout. Okay, it's another dynamic to the training that you're not doing now. So jumping right into the workout, making now it's a good idea to consider doing these with the drills and strides, especially to make sure that the body's ready to run fast. Right? It's like putting WD-40 on the joints and ligaments. It really is. So if you train on the road, especially, that tempo rep will probably help you. Never done a cross country. So again, and you don't necessarily need to run cross country races, but these are the types of things that are going to help. Whether you're training on the cross country, whether you do it on the roads or on the grass or on the track, doesn't matter. These types of things will elevate your fitness in a way that it's not doing now. And do it collectively throughout an entire season, You'd be surprised at how much extra conditioning you can gain, right? And this isn't a flashy thing. These are just basically meat and potatoes. I like to add some green to the meat and potatoes, add some other elements to the training that you might not be doing now. 205 runner, what do you think the mile tempo should look like? So, well, if you just started as a 205 runner, try to run it in 540, right? Try to run 540, 545, and take your recovery, and then you go into the workout. And do that for a couple weeks. And and if you feel like you're getting comfortable getting fitter, you're adapting to it, and try to drop it down. If you do 545, try to do 540. If you do 540, try to drop it down to 535, and so on. But gradually over time. It'd be a good component to add to your training that you're not doing now. And as a 205 runner, that tempo rep will come in handy for you. It really will. And then if you could do that mile in, let's just say 540 to 545, and at some point build it up to a mile and a half at that same pace, right? Then you could be a 205 runner who can come back later and run a 4x8, also run a 205. I come across a lot of folks who run 205, and then they come back and double it, and they're running 212, 215. They're not fit enough to double and stay close to where they were in the first race, right? I want folks fit enough to do it twice, if that makes sense as well. This is where these types of workouts come in handy. This is why it's so important to do these types of things, right? The fitter you are, the better off you're going to be. That makes sense, Real Gene? Any other questions, folks? Multi Kenny, you got any questions, my man? And welcome to the family. Ben Bailey Fitness, welcome. Welcome to the top of the line running family. Really. Thank you. Again, I'm live every Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern. Never run a sub 6 mile during a 1 mile tempo. It's usually during a 3 mile. So now this is a good goal. You try to break 6 minutes. And this is what I would do. I would do your mile warm up, do a couple of drills and a couple strides to help get the legs fired up, and then you try to do a sub 6 minute tempo run. After that, this is something that you could incorporate into the training and work towards mentally, right? Just being able to get the kids outside has been super. Yeah, I totally get it. Super cool. And again, this is if you have a hill nearby and you can't get to the track, that's totally fine. I would go to the hill. I would do a time tempo, right? Like that third workout, combo workouts, and then take a little recovery and just do some hills. And if that's all you can do for a bunch of weeks until the snow comes off the ground, you'd be shocked at how much conditioning you would gain, your athletes would gain. Just hills and tempos if you can. It'll go a long way. But I totally understand. Yeah, when it's super cold and snowy, it's hard to run fast. It really is hard to run fast. If the hills are covered in snow, I get it, and I wouldn't worry about it, pace and all that stuff. But if they can run up the hill in snow, it's safer to run up the hill than it is down the hill. Right? They're attacking the uphill, as long as it's not icy, and then you jog down slowly, and they can just attack the hill. But it's safer to run up hills on the snow than it is flat and fast on the snow. But yeah, snow definitely makes it more challenging to run fast. That's for sure. There's no doubt about it. So I totally get where you come from, Multi Kenny. Just be careful. Okay, make sure they're dressed properly. Make sure there's dry stuff they can get into afterward, right? But right now, if the only thing you have access to is hill, then I would do that if you can't get on the track, even if it's covered in snow. But you judge as you see, you coach with the eye. You see if it's safe enough for them to do it. They do it. If you can get them indoors and they can only run stairs or hallways or whatnot, you do what you need to do. You improvise accordingly. Right? Timed efforts is totally fine. You can do time and not worry about pace right now, especially in the snow. It's totally okay. And also, again, them doing out and those that doing that type of stuff in the elements will definitely build a layer of toughness that the kids might not have. They can work together towards this. Then once the weather kind of eases off a little bit and they can get back on the track, that's a nice reward for them. Don't like dressing warmly. Of course, they don't like dressing warmly. I don't need a coach. I don't need my hand gloves. Why? Yeah, I totally get it. Especially if they're boys here and the girls are around too. They don't want to weak for the girls. But if at the very least, I would have cover the extremities, the fingertips. Helps keep their hands warm, their posture proper. That way, they're not fighting against their own body's mechanics. But I totally get that one too, Kenny. So I totally get it. You do what you need to do. But also the tempo runs and the threshold stuff, slowing it down in training, even when the weather's not. You can do 3-minute efforts with a 1-minute recovery, right? At threshold pace or threshold effort. That allows you to go over distance in the snow, which will help elevate their body temperature, keep them warm throughout the workout as well. That way they're not standing around waiting in the cold to run fast. That's the benefit of threshold workouts too in the winter. Short recoveries, lots of volume, right? And then once the weather eases up, then the reward is for them they get to run fast again. Think about how much strength they built up with threshold type training along the way. It's like, oh my God, I feel so much fitter. I can run these workouts so much better. Or I can run the workouts the way I did before, but I'm recovering so much better now. Right? So, but yeah, I believe me. Kids, yeah, I totally get it. It's frustrating. It's annoying as a coach. They don't have their hats and on the gloves. They forget this, forget that. Drives us nuts as a coach. It's like, guys, I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich. Even when I'm not going to give you a knuckle sandwich, I want to give you a knuckle sandwich. Right? So I totally get it. Okay. But again, hope you found these workouts helpful, folks. You're welcome, John. Behind your competition, so I'm trying to catch up. Well, again, if you're behind your competition, you want to, and again, keep in mind, catching up is not cramming extra into your training. It's gradually building on what you have. And if you can do it when no one is looking and add little things like this, you'd be surprised at the types of leaps you can make in performance. Just gradual, just be consistent with it. And all of a sudden, it's these little things like this that you add that help you run much faster races. All of a sudden, you have a breakthrough when you don't expect to. That's the benefit of consistent training. But I hope you found this helpful. And again, next weekend, we're going to talk about sub 15-minute 5K. Okay. Running friendly cold weather gear is so easily accessible nowadays. Okay. Yeah, 100%, man. I don't know. Skull cap, gloves, just a glove and skull cap goes a long way. It really, really does. Especially in the really cold weather. So I agree with you 1000%, Multi Kenny. Totally relate with you right there as a coach. Totally. But in the meantime, keep them warm, keep them safe. Everybody enjoy the rest of your season. Have a great week. We'll be back next Sunday and continue to talk about this every single Sunday, different milestones. So have a great weekend. Thanks so much for coming. Hit that like button if you haven't done that yet. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you next time.